Hey guys, decided to switch this up a little bit and go with live video because for some reason audio just keeps shutting off and it really sucks because I did a live audio I think Monday or Wednesday.
I think it was like Wednesday. You did it, yeah.
And it shut off like 3 times. The phone just literally just shuts off. So I don't have any control over it. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's iPhone, maybe it's Facebook, who knows, but we're back in case you were listening before. So we'll recap a little bit about what we talked about before. If you're new and haven't watched or listened to any of this, go to our audio previous to this, and we're talking about how to basically like choose an online coach, or because there's so many coaches out there nowadays, and it's getting pretty saturated to where it's sort of devaluing some of the other coaches who've been here for a long time, and it's really disheartening and frustrating in some aspect because of the quality that they're giving out isn't as high, but it's all a learning process for new people that come in. So this is kind of what we're some key points that we want to talk about to basically help you with deciding on who to work with. We're not saying to work with us. That's not what we're trying to do. And we're not saying we're great and awesome and we're perfect. That's not what we're trying to do. We're more or less just trying to have you or teach you to research your people, research who you want to work with, and then lay everything out and then choose from there. But we'll touch briefly on what we talked about earlier. We talked about website being one. Don't judge a book by its cover, but also they should have a decent website to give value and content and even free stuff to kind of tell the world about what it is they do, but also just valuable information of how they can help people without asking for anything.
Second, we talked about whether they're local or online and just kind of your preferences there, and digging into what it is that you really want or need from the coaching experience and how, the difference in these two coaches, how they can offer what it is that you need. Third one we talked about was if you are looking to do contest prep, whether they are a pro or not, or maybe even whether they do the category that you're looking to do. That can be a helpful thing sometimes for some people. And if you're not a competitor, kind of other ways to look at their own success would be if you've followed them for a while and they've progressed in a way that you find really admirable or that you respect. That can be a really good thing. Whether they've just like transformed amazingly, chances are they have some of the mindset and the tools and knowledge that you might want or need to get to where you want to go. So
plus you kind of get to know them too, and kind of know them on a personal level of what kind of person they are. Mm-hmm. That way you can connect a little better, and that's I think very important too.
Totally.
Just getting to know them.
If they communicate I'm just similar to you.
The next one that we didn't touch on earlier, but we are now, is you have to decide how you want your form of communication and decide like what it is you are okay with communication wise. If you need to be on the phone, if you need to do text message, if that's your thing, or messenger, or whatever it is, your form of communication, make sure that the coach provides that, and that's something they provide in their service, and or at least willing to do if that's not a normal thing for them to do. Because if that's important to you to jump on the phone, they don't like talking on the phone or FaceTiming, whatever it is, then don't work with them. If you need that, then that's your choice. You have that choice to go somewhere else or maybe just compromise with them, because really it's all about you and getting your results, and that's what it should be all about, is helping you.
Yeah.
And so if that's not what they provide, which can be different levels of service from the coach depending on what they do, but that's something that the coach would have to really talk to you about and make sure that's something you ask.
Yeah, I think a lot of these like bigger picture wise are just and kind of figuring out within yourself what your expectations are, because you have to really lay them out for the other person to be able to be successful to meet them. If they don't even understand and you don't even know what your expectation is, it becomes very impossible for anybody to like meet it if you don't even know. So kind of look and see what it is that you want, and then
because if you have your expectations that they're going to give you all this communication all the time, every second of the day, and the coach says no, if they have like a all communication type option, and they have like once a week option, and maybe like once a month or once every 2 week kind of thing, and you get the cheapest one once a month, but you expect them to communicate with you all the time, but they're not because you didn't pay for it. You need to respect that you need to put that expectation as that's what I'm expecting, is only to talk to my coach once a month or every 2 weeks, whatever it is you agree on. You can't change the thing or change the concept of the program with the coach, because that's what you guys agreed on together. And it's not fair to the coach to get a bad name because you weren't happy with the service, because you just wanted a cheaper program thinking you can kind of get away with talking to them more. But that's not what you paid for. So we also have to make a living too, and that's something that, we do this full time. This is our livelihood. This helps put food on the table for us. This helps feed our family, kind of thing. So it's one thing. People will say, "Oh, they're all about money," to some coaches, but it depends on what it is. And if you're a scandalous butthead, then that's a different story. But there are schedules and things you have to look at with communication for coaches to be optimal for the progress of all the clients, because you're not the only one they're working with. However, it should feel like you are the only one they're working with. If they have a set schedule, at least for us, we like a set schedule because it helps us keep organized and also on track, but also make sure we're giving everything we can during those times.
And it is, like you said, it's kind of also realizing that if you do, we have just in our case, we do have people that are quite successful with some of the lower support options, and that's perfect if that's what they want and we can fulfill that need. But at the same time, when you kind of go outside of, like Tyler said, what the expectations for that level of service is, we have a duty to the other clients to be respectful of what they paid for, and so if we're kind of crossing that boundary with you, it's a bit disrespectful to our entire clientele who's paying the higher amounts for those services, where they do get more contact because that's what they expected and wanted, and we're trying to fulfill that. So there's kind of looking at it from a different perspective with that.
Yeah, but on the hindsight, the flip side, if the coach says they're going to communicate or they're open all the time, or their response time is 24 to 48 hours or whatever it is, and they're not responding for a month, that's a different story. You have every right to be upset. That is definitely not acceptable. So that's communication is huge. You got to communicate with your coach and also ask what their communication style is. I think that's very, very important. Next thing is, anybody can have testimonials, so you have to really kind of look into what is a testimonial. Testimonials are huge and very important because you need to see results, because that's the bottom line. You want to get results, and you have to maybe look at, you could dig deeper into people's stories if they have a big story about where they came from and where they're at. Some people they have, some people won't even they'll already be lean, and then they come into and work with a coach and maybe get them a little leaner, but yet they had a big picture and it wasn't even they didn't really work with them.
It didn't transform them. That's true.
But look at testimonials, look at transformations. That's very important, because that's the product of the service that they're providing, and that's the end result. So that's very important that they can at least help you get there.
Another thing to do on that line would be to kind of, if there is a coach that you're interested in and they kind of post or refer to different clients that they're working with, whether it's on social media or wherever you're seeing it on their website, if there's a way to reach out to that person that is currently experiencing the service, if you can write them a message or whatever, or sometimes, a lot of times these things will be referrals. We'll dig in and ask somebody who's currently working with that coach, what type of experience they're having, just see if it fits kind of what you're looking for. There's no better way to figure out what the coach is like than to truly talk to somebody who's worked with them or is working with them or whatever. So that could be a great way to dig into transformations a little bit more.
Yeah, there's nothing more valuable than getting a personal testimony from someone who's going through it currently, or who has gone through it currently, because it shows that they're happy and they're fulfilling their needs, and they're just extremely happy, because you're gonna feel a lot better knowing that you did your research and know that other people are extremely happy with what they're getting. Then you'll get to the expectation when you work with that person that they're gonna follow through with what they promised. So that's important. Next thing.
Sure. Next one would be, what type of diet style are they utilizing, and does it fit with what you pictured in your mind or what you know you've been successful with. Some of that, can obviously be like a compromise between things and but yeah, what type of diet style do they utilize? Are they using meal plans? Are they, are you doing flexible dieting? Are they flexible with utilizing other things that are important to you, whether you're like vegetarian or, if you like IF, or are they flexible to, hear your side if that's important to you, to utilize some of those other like more advanced concepts within dieting? Or are they like stuck on one method and you're wanting to do something outside of that, because that's obviously kind of a deal breaker.
Like no go, not doing that.
Yeah.
But if they say no, I only do this style, whatever it is, and you want to do another style or approach, just ask for a good explanation for it as to why. If they can't give you an explanation or reason for it, then they probably just don't know. They don't understand the concepts. Like, for example, we've had clients come to us and they work with other coaches, although it's hearsay, but this is just what we've heard several times. They would be severely restricted to a meal plan, and just they would ask, hey, can I, track my macros, or can I, start eating this because I just feel like I'm binging, or I want to binge, but if I had this, it'd be a little bit relief. It'd be easier. It'd be a little bit stress relieved, I guess I should say. But they would say, no, that whole macro thing, the whole flexible dieting thing is crap, don't do it. And it was really more of like the response of it, from what I hear, is just, it's more of like they don't really understand. The coach really doesn't have a grasp on it as to what it can really do. And maybe they're not educated on how to do it and how to apply it. So then they just lash out like, no, don't do it, that's stupid. Right, and that's one thing that they're probably just insecure about it because they're just not educated, but they feel more confident with the meal plan because that's all they really know.
That totally makes sense. I think on the flip side of that, though, too, is like we do have sometimes people where they're like, I just want it laid out for me. Like, I've done this before, and it's not that we don't help people with meal planning, but on the flip side, if you're that person where if you don't have it super structured and have that sort of control over you, where your coach is just telling you this, that, the other, maybe that's something for you to consider. Where, yeah.
And you got to be flexible. Like, we help provide those for clients too, where we don't just give them the plan. We actually go over it with them if that's what they really need, so that they're understanding what they're picking, how much they're picking, they're understanding the quantities. So it's not just, okay, go do it and follow it.
Yeah.
It's like, go do it, but we did it together, so you had a choice in terms of what you're picking, so you have an understanding of why you're eating it, and then how to choose from there. That's really kind of a learning thing that we like to do with us personally, but coaches do it differently, and they might do it that way, and that's great. But it's whatever that fits your need and what you need in terms of the eating style, the diet style.
Yeah. Next one. We'll do it.
Sure. Go ahead.
Go for it. You do
Me?
it. Yeah.
You don't want it?
No.
No? Why?
Because I can't read it.
I'm just kidding. We're blind. We're both blind. We have small notes here. We're supposed to do the audio, but we had our notes. So next is, we kind of touched on this a little bit about communication style. Do you like text? Do you like email? Do you like FaceTime? Because there's some people that just don't like phone calls. They don't like the video chats or anything like that. It's strange, but and it's not strange because that's just the type of person. Some people like to just stay behind the computer, and they like to open up to, even though it's a stranger online, it can be, there's many clients I've worked with who I've never seen their face. I've seen their body and their physique, never heard their voice because I didn't want to talk. And we just went email to email for a long time, and they had great success, and they just didn't want to get on the phone. And I think this is just my speculation, but it could be because they feel safe kind of behind the computer, and they feel like they can open up to this person that isn't going to judge me because they're trying to help me. And I think that's important, to help someone feel safe, that you're not going to be taking, random, showing everyone your picture or their pictures or something like that. Just keep them private. And that's another thing too, privacy. Making sure that the client has their privacy met. If a coach is going to post something about a client or picture, they should get permission. That's something that some people, actually just heard a story this morning that a coach locally started putting pictures of a person in their underwear and bra on a banner in their place and for transformation, and she wasn't very happy about that. So that's another thing. Like, if you want your privacy, make sure you really present that, because some people just don't naturally ask for permission. So that's one thing to think about.
But yeah, just to expand on that a little, it's, with the communication style, like, we do run into this where, again, some of it can be about, like, if you are the type where you want to text all the time or you need a lot of phone calls, just make sure what your expectation is matches what you're choosing as far as, like, the options. If you want, like, that full support, or, you know, just be respectful of the coach's time and think about whether you've clearly put your expectation out there for them to meet it in a way that is, like, satisfactory to you.
Yeah, because text messaging, it's great. Everyone texts nowadays.
Yeah.
I used to give my number out a lot in the beginning when I coached, text message, but I've learned not to anymore. I don't anymore, simply because, and I was talking about this earlier this week, that I was literally on my phone. I was glued to my phone, and I still am in some aspect doing other stuff on my phone, but I was always communicating, talking to the clients all day, every night, throughout the weekend, and I was interfering pretty severely into my personal life. And that's one thing that people forget, is that coaches have a personal life too. They have family. Yeah. You have to respect that if they don't respond right away, if it's a text message, like, respect that. Don't, if you're panicking that you are about to binge and the coach didn't respond, and then they blame you for the binge or blame the coach for the binge, that's not fair, because they're not going to solve your problem in terms of, like, you binging. They could talk you down a little bit, but ultimately it's not the coach's fault, it's your fault. You know, take responsibility for your actions, and just know that, you know, set the boundaries like Leanne said, because it's a very, very important piece to a coach, is respecting their time and their privacy also. Like, if they want to enjoy their time with family and friends, they have that right. Or
even during certain days or hours where it's like, yeah, you know, just make sure you're being reasonable.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, too, I was going to say, within my own journey, a thing that I've kind of noticed where a lot of times it sounds strange, but we can kind of sabotage ourselves when, this isn't to say, like, we don't want everybody to communicate, because I think it's, like, amazing.
Huge.
But for my own self, what you start realizing is that if you allow yourself a, like, channel for every single thought that you're having inside your head to come out and bounce off somebody, a lot of times you're not working through some of the things that could be really important to your progression. Because, like, to be honest, we're all wanting to get the physique we want. We put a lot of time and effort into it, but you can be your own worst enemy when you sit there and just kind of overanalyze, like, everything you're thinking about. And a lot of times with clients, I will have to say, like, we have to look at the big picture and keep plugging through, like, some of these thoughts if you want to get ultimately to the goal that you want. Where if you have somebody where you're consistently, I feel this, I feel that, I feel hungry, I feel this, you know, it's like this process is much more like a big picture thing than these really small overemphasized things that we're feeling in our brain. So a lot of times having a coach to bounce off of a couple times a week or whatever can be really helpful to keep you just mentally more, like, stable. Or sometimes if you're allowing everything that comes in your brain to come out, it's a little bit, like, maddening. You don't need all those thoughts, like, validated sometimes.
Well, then you start to kind of depend on the coach to respond, to validate that everything's okay.
Exactly.
Whereas if you don't get that right away, you feel like the world's coming to an end, and you're very upset. But that's a good point, because you have to learn to work through your stuff yourself. Some of it. Like, there's, to an extent, you definitely have to work through some stuff, because that's the ultimate thing that's going to happen, or for you to change or to fix it, is by you doing it yourself.
To be better, yeah.
To be better, yeah.
We're here to support, but...
Yeah, the support definitely helps, but it's weird to say, but, like, if you reduce the communication in terms of frequency, to an extent, it depends on what it is, but, like what she said, maybe a couple times a week, or maybe 3 if that's the case. But if it's all day, every day, you're not working on it yourself. You're depending
it's
on
like a crutch. It becomes a crutch and then you think that, you know, those thoughts are real, because you then have somebody to, and a lot of the things, let's be real, a lot of things we think when we're trying to achieve this physique, they're not real. They're like made up in our head where, just like the feelings of like hunger or, whatever it is, whether you think you're fat or you think you're you're losing muscle or, some of these things aren't real. So the more you get like validation with someone replying to you, the more they become real when it's like, they're not real.
So basically we kind of went off a little bit on communication, but it's actually very important because you have to go into it knowing a coach is willing to communicate with you, but also respect their time in terms of don't abuse, in terms of like if you have texting available, don't abuse it. Just use it when it's needed, and that's it. I mean, if there's the communication's there and they're helping you, then that's the bottom line. You're getting results and you feel good. Go with that. Yes. So actually, you go on. Sorry.
No, you do it. You do this one.
No.
All right, fine. Okay, so the next one I think is a really prevalent way that people do find online coaches, and that is via social media. So obviously checking out how people present themselves on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, can be a really valuable resource in terms of just getting the overall style of maybe how a coach is. And I think a lot of people, like with us, like maybe they're attracted to a certain thing where they see like similarities or whatever. So it is a great way to get kind of a snapshot of their personality, and as we said before, like a little bit about the results that maybe they or their clients are achieving. So I think that's a great way to kind of get to know people and connect with them. And do they reply to you? Is it something where if you already feel supported and you're not like paying them, or they feel like they make you feel some type of way, then chances are it might be a good fit, and maybe you can dig in with them a little further to email and ask questions about their services and things like that. I don't know what else.
Yeah, like social media can be tricky. So social media can be portrayed in a fake, falsified kind of way. With some aspect, you see the selfies, everyone's going through 100 selfies before they actually pick the one they like with the best lighting. And there's some people that portray a certain personality, but then in person they're completely different. So that you could see the context of the superficial side a little bit, but yet you can read their posts and what they really like. But then videos speak volumes about people too, and what kind of personality they have. But also to stem off that's the communication or the testimonial side, where you can ask for recommendations. If you see a couple coaches that you like, you can ask. You can even post about it. I see posts all the time like, hey, what do you guys think of this coach? Or hey, do you have any recommendations for this coach? Or in a group, or do you have any recommendations for this type of coach? A lot of people will give good recommendations to get you started, and you can start doing research from there of who are kind of telling you based off people you trust. And that's one thing is, get a recommendation from somebody that's like valid and that has gone through it with them. Or if they've heard, great stories over and over and over again from people, that's truly the most valuable part is that. And then, the social media, you just have to be careful, because there's a lot of people who have huge followings. They're like Insta-fame type people, where they have huge followings and they give out these really cheap plans and cookie cutter stuff, and then there's like no communication. Their expectations are way different than what you were given or told, and that's something that's kind of a letdown. And a lot of those coaches are gonna fail eventually, and it'll catch up to them. But if they have the massive following, eventually they might not run out of people. Like there's so many people. That's the thing. It's like they can do cheap plans that have a huge volume, but the quality is basically going out the window. What's the saying? There's three things that Daniel told us the other day. The three things that you look at or see in like a service or a service, and you only can get two of the three, and it's you can be fast. It's either fast, quality, or quantity. No, fast, quality, or slow. Fast, quality, or slow. You can only have two of the three. You can't have all three. So if you're fast and the quality suffers, then what is it? I'm getting this all messed up.
I don't know, but I mean,
if you're too fast and the quality basically suffers and the communication is kind of slow, but
basically can't have everything.
You can't have everything. Yeah, I can't remember it.
I'm sure it's like there's something about price maybe or.
Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of irrelevant, but ask for recommendations and get recommendations from people because that's very, very important.
And that the thing with social media in general is just to remember that it is a snapshot, regardless of whether the person's being real. We're taking like multi-dimensional creatures in people and putting them on a one-dimensional, platform. So yeah, it's just big picture wise, like dig in a little bit further. You can use what you're seeing as far as their personality, but just dig further and see if they're willing to like meet with you or talk to you on the phone or whatever it might be, so you can kind of confirm if what you're seeing and hearing matches up and aligns with what you're wanting from the experience.
Absolutely.
Next one.
Thanks, Trisha. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But next thing is probably one of the biggest things that people look at the most, and it's unfortunate that people look at this the most because a lot of people have this perception of what it really is compared to what they think it is, and that comes down to price. Pricing, obviously everyone has a budget. Everyone has a certain budget where they can only pay so much, but the fitness industry is kind of getting burned in a way where there's so much free information out there that they think, I can just get this free anyway. I don't need a coach. But when I want a coach, I just want, a little bit of communication, or even like they think everything should just be really cheap and free because there's so much out there that is cheap and free, but they don't understand. That's just more like cookie cutter stuff, but they don't really understand what one-on-one coaching really is and the value that it can bring, because it's such an emotional roller coaster and it can be very, very tough that the coaching and the price of it can be a little more when that quality is higher, because they're probably taking on less people because they want to maintain that quality. And if someone has less people to work with, it kind of evens out. If you have a huge quantity of people with less price, it's harder to manage that many people, especially when you get capped out where you're just getting overwhelmed and you can't take on the load. But the price is very, very difficult for many people, and we understand that, and that's something that just look at the value of the coaching that you're getting and not just a number, because if you're just looking at a number, then you're not looking at the overall picture of like what it can really do to change your life, because that's really important. That a lot of people kind of forget that part of it and they just look at price only, and that's just it.
Makes sense.
Anything to say on that?
You covered it.
We always talk about that part where we're like, it's frustrating with the price part, because people say that we're too expensive, but we work with people, but yet we have different options. But once they actually get the service and they actually get the coaching, they always tell us that it was the best thing they ever did, best decision they ever made. And even if the price, it's worth it. You got to look at like, what's your health worth? What's the goal you're trying to look at worth or trying to achieve? What's it worth to you? And what's it look like long term after you reach your goal? You have to look at that too. If they're just trying to crash you, and because it's cheaper, and then you gain the weight back right away, like, is it really worth it? Where you could have, maybe paid a little higher price point for a coach that's higher quality, or you could have kept that off because you know what you're doing. The value of what you learned is much more valuable. And that kind of goes on to, I forgot, we have one more. The knowledge of the coach.
Yeah.
We talked about progression. Yeah. The knowledge of the coach is important too. Obviously, you don't have to have some kind of a really high degree to be able to do this. I think, in my opinion, and I think Leanne would probably agree, is that experience really trumps everything, in our opinion, how hard you work. Because I've seen, when I worked in the medical field in X-ray and the cardiac cath lab, I worked in a fellowship hospital for a long time, and I would see fellowship doctors getting taught by these doctors. Doctors that were extremely book smart, like brilliant people, and that did really bad in clinic, and the experience of what they're doing was just terrible. But those who did really good in academia and were smart, but yet they're brilliant in clinicals. They didn't do as good in the books, but they did an amazing job in the clinical part. And so that's, I think, experience and working hard in that aspect. It can really trump like book smart. Although you need to do your research, you need to learn more, you need to continue education. I'm a huge fan of that, and that's very important. But I think overall experience is definitely something you have to look into, and it's very valuable.
Yeah, I think it can be, especially, and you kind of have to look at what are you looking to a coach for. If it is like motivation and a connection in the more traditional style that like coaches that just are you, if you're looking for like a true coaching relationship, not to be stereotypical, but some of those that are more academia related may not be into that. But you know, if you're just looking for somebody to tell you exactly what it is, and it's, you know, that you're going to do, and it's based on, you know, this thing, then maybe that's a good fit for you. So it kind of, some of it just plays in, but I think experience can be huge.
Yes.
And sometimes it can play into communication style as well.
Definitely, absolutely. And there are a lot of people out there that are really high academia that are brilliant people, and they're great with communication, great with the experience and everything. So that's another thing. So we kind of recommend, you know, at least, you know, if all of those criteria, if you kind of looked at it as a whole, you know, if you're, you know, checking off, you know, the positives of maybe about 80 to 90% of them, you got a pretty good coach. You're not, obviously all the coaches aren't going to fulfill everything, but you have to really look at what are your priorities, what are your needs, and kind of look from there and what's really going on in the picture and what you need. That's the bottom line. Like, what's your goal? What's your need? And then portray that to them. And if they can't commit or provide that, or tell you at least, yes, we do that, and be like, have the integrity of being honest and caring, then yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything else?
Big goals, huh? Well, see ya. So we appreciate you guys jumping on. For those of you guys that think others could use this of value, because this was brought to our attention by a client before he signed up with us. He was like, I didn't know, you know, what to look for when hiring someone. I'm glad I found you guys, because you guys are kind of nailing everything. And so that was one thing we're like, oh yeah, well, there isn't really a whole lot of stuff out there. We've heard people recommend coaches, but we wanted to really dig into like what to look for in a coach, at least from our experience and what we've seen from clients and what we give, but then also what we've seen from other coaches as well. So a lot of great coaches out there. If you guys have questions, please comment, but share this with others if you want to spread the word, or at least if this was good, you guys liked it, tell your friends if they're looking for a coach, watch this video. We appreciate all your support, and we will see you guys next time.
And hi, Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey.